just reading the Twitters. There seems to be some technical issues out there. Hopefully our production team are all over that. Right, making his debut today, we've got Mr. Andrew Boast, the co-founder of shareandmortgage.com. Very good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning, Nick.
Any new debutant, we always ask, what football team do you support?
I do follow Manchester United for all of my sins.
And is that, are you a casual fan or a serious fan?
I got married about a year ago, so that makes me a more casual fan of having my Sky TV taken away from me.
I totally understand. I totally understand where you're coming from. Right, now, your specialised subject, shareandmortgage.com, discussion on mortgages and the affordability in London. Unfortunately, we've only got 10 minutes because we could probably spend 2 hours on this subject. But are mortgages affordable in London?
Well, I suppose in looking at the whole of the London market, the challenges that Londoners are faced with is that there aren't enough properties for Londoners to buy. And then with a shortage of properties, the property prices have only but gone one way, which is escalating higher and higher. So for a Londoner who the average salary is around £35,000, the best mortgage, or potentially a mortgage they could get, even if it was at 4 times their salary, would be around £142,000 for an average salary. With an average property price in London now,
300.
Well, it's £457,000. So the gap between what someone is able to buy and what they can afford to get on a mortgage is just unachievable for a Londoner. So the Help to Buy scheme was brought in to try and bridge the gap between what a property is worth. And that focuses in on a 5% deposit, government backing with either a guarantee or an equity loan, in order for someone to be able to then get a mortgage to enable them to buy. But for Londoners, they're struggling even with a 5% deposit on £450,000. And then even getting a mortgage at 95% is going to be unachievable for them. So what Londoners are faced with is a gap between what they can afford just through getting a mortgage, so their multiples of their salary just aren't going to cut getting anywhere near more. And then they're forced into renting, or living at home. Now, the current statistics, there's 9 million people renting, there's about 4 million people living at home. And the challenge that those people face is that they will be, if they're renting, they're paying market rent. And if you're living in London, average rent about £1,500 now, and even if you're splitting that between 2 people, that is a lot of money of rent to be going out month on month, year on year, and it could be 4 or 5 years' time, and you've spent £50,000 in rent and still no better off, because the challenge that people have is that their salary is X, their rent is going out of that high, but there's also the other outgoings. Council tax, gas, electricity, and that's where the affordability for the mortgages, for the MMR, has really kicked in, which was the Mortgage Market Review in April, where no longer is it just a case where if you go to a mortgage lender, you say 4 times or 3.5 times my salary and I've got a deposit. Mortgage lenders are now taking a sterner view of, can you afford it? What other memberships have you got? What do you pay the gym? Where do you go? How much do you spend?
But did it really get down to the level in terms of pet food? If you had a cat, was that just, you know, headlines?
I'm not sure if they looked into pet food, but they look into your gym memberships.
Right.
They look into your outgoings. And nowadays you need to supply a bank statement over the last 3-6 months. And the fine detail, absolutely going through line by line by line of how much you were spending. So if you do have a lot of gym memberships, or if you do have a lot of nights out, or if you do have an extravagant lifestyle where you're constantly into...
There's certain members of our production team who will not be getting a mortgage, I reckon.
But it's a challenge, and it's a challenge where if one person on their own is simply paying out all the living costs, all the council tax, that's a challenge. But I suppose that's where Share a Mortgage comes in, because what we say is that if 2 people were living in the same living space, much like they can do when they rent, they were living, they're paying off council tax divided by 2.
Yep.
It's scale. It doesn't go up through scale. So their gas and electricity won't go up in direct proportion. The same space is being gas and electricity heated. So it makes it more affordable. So their affordability will be a lot more positive when looking at trying to get a mortgage, because they will then be able to share the costs and the everyday living costs between two people. We recently did a study and estimated that it's around £13,000 that you spend on your everyday living costs. So that's around £500–600 a month. Now that is, you know, no, it's even more that. So whatever that number a month coming out, plus if you're paying £750 to £1,000 in rent,
yep,
there's going to be no spare money to save up for buying a home.
Okay, so but how do we match? Okay, so I think that's a great idea. If I'm a young person, okay, I'm dividing everything by 2. Dead simple, dead straightforward. But how do I match me and Zach to share that property? What happens? How do you make sure that we're not going to be at war like the War of the Roses and sort of split the house down the middle?
I have to say, it's a process that you must be prepared to talk about. And the main thing that Share a Mortgage is behind is talking about what you're doing. It's an investment. What you're doing is you're walking into a property investment with Zach. If you want to, is he okay to?
No, okay. We'd probably drive each other mad, wouldn't we?
I think it wouldn't be a good idea.
But if in circumstances where you have a friend, family member who you are looking to buy a property with, you talk about what your intentions are, how long you're going to live together, what you're going to do, what your ownership structure is, how much your deposit's going to be, what will you do if Zach loses his job, what you will do if you become ill and can't go to work. All of these things, and part of the Share a Mortgage process is the Shared Ownership Protection Pack, which governs the relationship between people who are buying properties together. And it should be used for anyone who isn't buying as a married couple.
So effectively you're providing a legal document pairing people up, okay, working out the pros of doing it and the cons and going what if on different situations.
Yeah, throughout the whole of the living costs. So part of Share a Mortgage is the legal backbone. It's the cornerstone. It's the protection and the reassurance to give people who live together that reassurance that they can sell the property. They've got an agreement when they're going to do it. There's no ambiguity into and if you're you can even set house rules of things and things you can do in the property.
Right.
Within that
Zach's
agreement.
not allowed on my settee on a Friday night.
That's probably a good idea as well.
But do you know the best thing though? If you've spoken about it up front, Zach, you know to not
That's the rule.
On his settee, and you could set one that he can't go into. But you've agreed to do that right from the outset.
It's the detail, as always.
It's
okay,
the level of the detail. So we say be an informed buyer,
right.
Be an informed person that you know what the relationship is. But this is an investment. Suddenly you're on the property ladder.
Right, we're running out of time.
Okay.
We've done 10 minutes like that. Can you come back next week for part 2?
It would be my absolute pleasure.
Same time, same place. Because now I understand this. This looks really sensible to me. And if I was a young person, this might just get me on the ladder.
And we'll try and work out about the sofa as well.
Yeah.
By that time.
What I can and can't do. Yeah. What you can and can't do.
You need to learn to share.
We've never done
that. OK. Andrew Boast, co-founder of shareamortgage.com. Brilliant start. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
OK, let's take a very quick break and then we're going to be back with Mr. Francis Hunt, the market sniper, to talk technical market trading.